Welcome to Finders and Founders, everybody. And I want to thank Nick for joining us today. But I'm excited to talk about the topic today of let go to let's go, how to reinvent yourself after a layoff. But before we do that, let me just quickly jump in and just kind of let everybody know what we're going to be doing today, because it's important to understand that one of the reasons I put this together and these series together is to help people connect. And especially, there's a lot of us who are in situations where we've either been let go or we're looking for work. Even if you're still employed, maybe you have a toxic work environment you're trying to get out from under. Um, but we're going to be, wanting to connect with people. So as we do that for the first about 5, 10 minutes here, I just wanted to let everybody do that. And then we'll jump in with Nick, talking with Nick about some of his experiences. And then at the end, we'll do a Q&A. And then at that point, we'll just kind of close everything up at that time. So really quick for everybody, if you would, again, I want to make this a very valuable part of your day to day, and that certainly means connecting. And so, what I'd like you to do is in the chat, if you would type in your name, maybe a little where you're from, what you're looking for in terms of a role, something interesting about yourself, and then also include your LinkedIn profile, and also if you want to be contacted, your email. Somebody might want to reach out to you, but that way it gives us an opportunity to kind of connect with the right people and what they're looking for, and so there's a lot of good things that we can do with that. So I'm gonna just go ahead and type in mine so everybody kind of knows where I'm at. And then I'll introduce myself just a little bit so everybody kind of knows why I started this, where this is coming from, and um, why I decided to kind of start this series. And so over the last 5 years, I've been laid off twice, which is oh so fun. And I kept thinking, that the best way that we can connect is through is really finding people on the, especially with connections and networks. And the name Finders and Founders kind of came from that, with people who are looking for work, but also doesn't necessarily have to be a founder, but it certainly could be that somebody who's connected and connect you with them, or a hiring manager, or just somebody in a network that knows that they can help you, right? And that's where this whole thing comes from. Is that I wanted to find a way to help connect people better. And with this particular series, I wanted to highlight people that are doing really good things, have had similar experiences, because we all go through that process, especially if we've, worked in the and we've probably been laid off at least once in our careers or something like that's happened, and give kind of voice to those stories. I also wanted to create this as a way to find resources. And I wanted to share one really quick with everybody. So hold on just a second. I'm sharing my screen. And I wanted to mention Teal really fast because I found Teal about 2 or 3 years ago. And what I loved about it was the fact that it allowed me to do almost everything job search related in one place. And so if I wanted to build my resume, I could come in here and build my resume. It has a bunch of AI tools that you can do that as well. But the most valuable thing I found was this tracker feature that it has, and it allows you to go in and save a particular job description. Or so, for example, I found this one earlier today, and there's an extension that you can use on Teal that allows you to just click on this and add it. And so once it's in there, it's right here at the top, I think. Yeah, there it is. And now what I can do is I can go in, I know exactly when I applied for it, I can take notes on it, I can attach resumes, I can look for contacts. So there's a lot of really good resources that are in there that allow you to really keep track of your job search. So love the tool. Um, there's also you can look for jobs in here as well, and there's a bunch of other tools in there. So the reason I wanted to provide this and give people resources, and some of you may have heard of Teal already. Some of you have probably used it at some point. If you haven't, I'll drop a couple of links in here for things that are going to help you do that. So, um, all right. Well, with that being said, I'm going to shift over here and we're going to jump in and I'm going to introduce Nick really quick. And the way I'll do this is just how we met. That's probably the quickest way. As anybody in LinkedIn knows, you usually start there somehow. Um, but I remember it was about 2 or 3 years ago. It was actually before I was laid off. And I think I had reached out to you just being like, oh, I think you're doing something cool. It had to do something with like toxic workplace stuff. And I was like, I'm
Hmm.
in that, want to get out, etc. And then we connected. And so here we are, a couple of years later, doing some really cool stuff. You're doing some cool stuff. But Nick spent some time at Google and he accomplished some really great things there. And when he left Google, he's now the co-founder of a group called Changing Work, but he also is co-founder of his own community called the Quiet Rebellion, which we'll talk about for sure. And he's lived this reinvention journey and helps others do it with purpose. And so, Nick, thanks for being here. I'm excited for this conversation to see kind of where it goes and what we can help everybody with because I think we all struggled at one point with some of the things that we are going to talk about. So,
Absolutely. Bryce, it's good to see you,
anyways,
man. I was lost in the chat here. I was looking at everybody. I see some familiar faces in here. Hi, Kevin.
cool.
Um,
Me too.
I was trying to remember like how we originally connected, and I was going back through our LinkedIn chat, and I was trying to figure out like if I remember correctly, you were the one that reached out to me and just DM'd me
Probably.
like randomly.
I'm like that.
I was going through this and I was trying to figure out, and of course, like LinkedIn isn't helping because it won't update far enough back, but
Right.
it was as early, I think, as like 2022, like the tail end
Yeah.
of 2022.
Yeah.
So it's interesting too, because when you reached out to me around that time, I was still at Google.
Okay.
I was in the midst of probably one of the most difficult moments in time that I've ever had in my entire career. Uh,
Yeah.
Bryce mentioned that I spent a little bit of time at Google. I spent 13 years at Google.
Yeah.
Uh, I joined originally as a contractor and then a temp and then a vendor. And then I got hired full time almost 5 years later. So
Right.
I just want to throw that out there, first of all, for folks. A lot of people I talk to these days, contract work is what they're getting. There's this massive kind of stigma, I think, that a lot of people carry around contract work versus full time work. What I
Yeah.
encourage people to do is like get a good enough job, whatever it is, get a good enough job. And
Yeah.
then as you build your base and you build your stability and you build some flexibility in your resources, then yeah, you can always go out and find a better job. Um, but not to poo-poo the experience of like a temp vendor or contractor. So I had been at Google for 13 years at this point. I was in the tail end of my career. I had gone through marketing for several years. I was in partnerships for several years. And then I did this pivot led by a desire to be more aligned with the type of work that I wanted to do in the world, the problems I wanted to solve. And I wanted to go back to helping people and educating people. And I had an opportunity show up and essentially the HR team at Google, Learning and Development Organization. And turned out it was like the most toxic team I had ever been on in my entire
Yeah.
life.
Yep.
Really bad leadership across the board. There's a couple of real gems, not to paint a broad brush. Really
Right.
cool
Right.
people there, but a lot of really toxic leadership, toxic management. The whole hierarchy of the way that the organization was run was really not great. And when you reached out to me around the same time, I was in the midst of a mental health breakdown.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember this and like the conversations that we were having around that
I
time,
think
but
I do a little bit.
yeah, I was really,
Yeah.
really struggling. At this point, I had been managing and volunteering to manage mindfulness programs at Google for several years. I was, doing mental health discussion groups and talks to teams talking about men's mental health and vulnerability. I was a mindfulness facilitator. I had been training in mindfulness. I'd been in therapy. I'd been all these things. I did all of the things, and
Right.
burnout still got me, and
Yep.
toxic workplaces still got me. And it ended up culminating in essentially in the January of 2023, I took a month and a half off. Sorry, 3 months off, 3.5 months
Okay.
off,
Yeah.
essentially to like reset. And I was going to twice a week therapy, I had a coach, I had all the support. And it took me every bit of that 3.5 months to recover from the toxic environment that I was in. And unfortunately, I had to go right back into it and
Wow.
spent basically the entire rest of that year doing what we're going to be talking about today, I hope,
Yeah.
which is, basically how do you prepare yourself for these things and how do you set yourself up in a way before you get laid off and before a big disruption in your life happens. I call them near life experiences or near life moments.
I've seen those. I love that. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
it's one of these few instances in your life that you'll be completely confronted with the experience of being in your own life.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to look away.
Yeah.
And yeah, what I want to hopefully offer to folks is some tangible things, some ways to think about this. And also, like after you do get laid off, like what do you do? How do you actually
Yeah.
support yourself?
Yeah, exactly. I love that, preparing is like the biggest thing because that's the one thing that I know like I struggled with in the 8 years that when we before we connected, or no, it was right around when we connected. I had been working for a company and had been there for quite a while, and it had started to wear and tear on me. And I look back at that time and I wish I had started something like this then, even if it was just like part-time, because then it gives you a creative outlet to
Mhm.
be able to start broadening your network. And when you take on those little projects, and again, they don't have to be super, super like massive or anything like that. Just small steps that you can take to to move forward so that if something doesn't go the way that you want it to, or you end up um, in this position, that you're not sitting here going, "What do I do?" Right? And having a mental health issue,
Yeah,
which I can talk to as well, plenty,
yeah,
plenty, right?
yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of us can.
Yeah,
Yeah, there,
exactly.
there's a quote that I really love. I think it's misquoted as Louis Pasteur that actually said it, but we'll just work with that for now.
Yeah,
Chance favors the prepared mind.
I love it. Yep.
And the way I hear that quote and what I understand that to mean is like if we are prepared, if we have the right mindset, if we have the right scaffolding around our worldview and the right support structures, the right lens and how we're approaching life, opportunities will present themselves and we will be able to see them and take advantage of them when we do.
Yeah.
It's when we get blindsided by a layoff, when we get blindsided by a big life change of some sort, that it disrupts our nervous system and shakes
Mm,
us up and changes our capacity to be able to deal with the things at hand.
right.
Quite literally, what often happens is our prefrontal cortex, our ability to make decisions and make
Yeah.
choices gets shut
Yeah.
down in favor of fight, flight, freeze, fawn, like these defense mechanisms to deal with the immediate threat to our livelihood, to our worldview, to our sense of self.
Exactly.
And I think this is the thing that people don't really talk enough about when it comes to layoffs. It's not you didn't just lose a job. Oftentimes it's a direct hit to our identity, how we see ourselves, how we see the world around us, a sense of stability, a sense of safety.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, the way it's done creates what's called moral injury. So there's
Uh,
this difference between our values or the stated values of a team and what we're actually experiencing from
okay.
them and the
Right.
behaviors that they choose. So what that often does is it creates this essentially a moral injury, this wound, and there's grieving that has to happen there.
Right.
There's mourning that has to happen there. And
Yeah.
it's often looked over and skipped over in favor of like, I got to go out and apply for 400 jobs because the job market is insane and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention that as like a really important point here. It's like the preparedness piece first of all, it's not a one and done thing. It's not like, okay, I'm prepared, I'm ready to go.
Right.
It's a mindset, and it's a way of approaching job search and careerism in general, um, as an always on thing. It's an infinite game as opposed to a
Yeah.
destination that you get to.
Yeah. All right. So now let's start to take this journey, right? So you're at Google and there's some not great stuff happening, right? And I can identify with that in my last two jobs as well. Bad boss, toxic workplace, etc. And so you get let go in it was January or was it
Yeah, January of
okay, January
2023.
2023. Okay. So take us there and kind of where you're at and what you start thinking initially and start walking us through how you start to deal with that
Yeah,
because we know how that kind of looks for a lot of us and then we'll get into kind of how you started to move into like the repair and how do you
sure.
reinvent and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I would take it back even further.
Okay.
The
Let's
layoff
do
was
it.
almost a lagging measure of everything else that was going on.
Okay.
I probably started this journey about 2 years prior, where it was this moment of awakening and realization that it was like the work I'm doing is not aligned.
Yeah.
I was essentially slinging advertisement technology while at the same time hosting and mindfulness facilitation. I was helping people reclaim their attention while also claiming their attention in my
Right.
day job. And there was just like an ethical thing there that I couldn't get my head around anymore. So I had made this decision to pivot into learning and development, to go back to education, to go back to like production, essentially video production. And, for all the reasons I mentioned, that ended up not being a great choice, a good idea at the time. Sounded like it was a good
Right.
idea at the time. So even at that early stage, I was like, okay, there's misalignment here. This is a poor role fit. That was right when COVID basically was kicking off.
Right.
There's multiple reorgs, multiple restructures. And all along the way, I'm asking myself these questions of like, what is the work I want to be doing in the world? And then it was like, well, that's not the right question. It's like, what are the problems I want to be solving? What kind of
Mhm.
people do I want to be around?
Yeah.
And all the while, I'm just trying to make it work within my existing team. So my mental health starts deteriorating over time. I take my 3 months off. I think it was from March to May, essentially. I come back from my mental health leave. I'm, probably 40%, 50% maybe, in terms of like recovery from that experience. But there's lots of massive anxiety still.
Yeah.
I'm still having anxiety attacks. I'm still not sleeping at night. My gut health is all screwed up. There's all these physical symptoms. My relationship with my wife is strained. I'm
Hmm.
not in a shape to apply for jobs. I'm a mess. I'm a complete wreck.
Yep.
And also like COVID, and also all the job market was upside down too. So it was just like bad timing. So I basically hunkered down. I was like, okay, I'm going to be here for a little while. There's no hiring internally at the company. I need to make this work for a short period of time. So from May until essentially January of the next year, I was just treading water, just trying to
Yeah.
make it work. I'm going to
Yeah.
therapy, I'm working with a coach. I'm doing a lot of journaling around this time, and I started sketching out what ended up becoming what I'm doing now, which is uh, a constellation of things. But Rebellion Collective is the name of my company. The Quiet Rebellion Coaching is my signature coaching package. We'll talk about more of that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But I started sketching this out of like, what are the problems I want to solve in the world? And I had my wife as an example. She was a coach herself. It was beautiful to see what she was doing with clients, and I was like, "Damn, I want to be part of this. I want to be in, I want some of this. I want to be able to help people move through some of the most difficult parts of times of their life.
Yeah.
That's what I've been through." And
Right.
there's a whole other hour-long conversation or longer about like my life prior to Google.
Hmm.
I grew up in quasi poverty. I lived out of my car for a while. I squatted in buildings. I was a drug abuser. I was essentially a criminal for a long time. And it took me 20 years to recover from all that. And by the time I got hired at Google, talk about imposter syndrome. My God, like I didn't feel like I belonged there. My entire worldview was like, don't fuck this up and don't lose this opportunity.
Yeah.
And I blinked and 13 years went by.
Yeah.
So I'm reflecting on all this and I'm kind of thinking through like, okay, well, what are the things that I've overcome in my life? All the things I just listed, but also self-doubt, imposter syndrome, nervous system dysregulation, self-medication, distraction, technology addiction,
Hmm.
all of these things. So I started to put together this framework of ways that I could help people and started shopping it around, started talking to people like, what are these problems that you are dealing with? How would you describe them? And fast forward, in January of 2023 rolls around. Friday at 3 o'clock in the morning, I get an email in my inbox saying that my job no longer exists. And that's how I found out. And
Interesting.
that day, in my mind, it was the following Monday, but my wife reminds me, she was like, no, it was literally the same day, the same morning you got laid off.
Yeah.
I started hitting the LinkedIn. I started posting and telling my story and started
Yeah.
reaching out to people and talking to people.
Hmm.
And that was kind of the momentum that started everything else that happened after that. So I had, I guess, front loaded a lot of the preparation, a lot of the mourning, grief, acceptance, self-exploration,
Yeah.
self-awareness, and compassion. I had front loaded all that before I got laid off. So by the time I got laid off, it was just like, okay, the pressure valve had been released, and all of that angst and anxiety and waiting and anticipation and fear got turned into rocket fuel.
Yeah.
And I
That's,
basically didn't
yeah.
stop for 2 years, which I don't recommend, but we could talk more about that.
Yeah. What I heard was is that as you kind of transitioned from Google and then you went through the that period of transition, that's where you started to kind of where you were writing and
Yeah.
reflecting and thinking. Because I identified with that really well because I had when I was just recently laid off, I went through something similar in that it was at first it was kind of like, yeah, I'm cool with it. I'm good. I feel great, and it was about a month, and I had obligations and family things that I was doing, and then it hit me like June, like, oh, this isn't great at all. Like,
Wait a minute, I've been laid off.
right, exactly. But and going back to what you said about like when you're not mentally there, like don't try to do something that you can't mentally put yourself into
Yeah.
because it just doesn't work, right? And I found that out and then moved towards some other things that I'm productively doing. We can talk about that another time too, but the if you could reframe or not reframe it, but if you could like say, all right, to people that are listening, here are like the things that the habits or routines that you're
Yeah.
doing that they possibly could say, all right, I'm in the position maybe now to start creating that rocket fuel as you called
Mhm.
it, right? And that's what we want to get to is like we don't want to stay depleted. We want to be able to come back fully and really whatever it is, whether it's find a job or
Mhm.
start a new business, whatever. Let's lay out a couple of things that you felt have given you the ability to, to generate that rocket fuel and take you where you're at.
Yeah, well, this is a good T-ball up for everything that I'm doing today. So the things that I practice personally are the same things I work with my clients on.
Yeah.
Um, and so much of this came out of, and again, somebody who massive imposter syndrome, massive anxiety, this trauma history, this like instability and substance abuse and grasping for external stimulation and validation,
Hmm.
all these things. These were the practices that I started to put into place to get my life together. This is while I was working at Google. This is while I
Right.
was doing this and working at I was a high performer. I had for 13 years gotten meets or exceeds expectations every single quarter. I got hundreds of people that would reach out to me and thank me for work that I was doing in the mindfulness space, the mental health space. So it wasn't like I was just like barely hanging on. I was masking really well.
Right.
So all of these things that I was putting together were like hacks for myself to just be a better human in the world, to be more authentic, to connect better with myself, to heal from the
Hmm.
trauma that I was working on. But to boil it down, I think that there's essentially like two different phases here. There's the what happens before you get laid off and what happens after you get laid off.
Okay.
Most
Yeah.
people that I talk to leading up to a layoff, it's usually not great. There's usually other things going on in the
Mhm.
company that causes mental health struggles or challenges. A lot of people that I talk to, they're high performers, they're high achievers. I would even call them overachievers. So it's people who most of their life they've been painting by numbers, they've been doing what other people expected of them, their parents or civilization, the company,
Yep.
the tryhards, right? And I call
Yep.
myself that myself. Like, I'm not above anybody. I'm one of these folks. So,
Yeah.
so oftentimes what I would experience was this like inability for these clients to be able to see themselves in a new light, to see
Yeah.
themselves as anything other than a striver or achiever. And then that shows up in the job search. What often happens is they'll get laid off, they'll maybe take 24 hours or 48 hours, lick their wounds, and then jump on the job search
Yeah.
and put out
Totally.
800 resumes in a month,
Yeah.
or work
Right.
8 to 8, or do the 996 thing, but they're doing it now in their job search and they burn
Yeah.
out even
Yeah.
worse. And they have never
Yeah.
actually recovered from the burnout or the breakdown experience of the layoff. So, what I try to encourage people to think about is like we have these moments in our lives that are transition moments that are often celebrated or ceremonialized in some way. Think like graduation, weddings, funerals,
Yeah.
quinceañeras, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, all of these things. We don't have these for layoffs. Usually it's just like, sorry, and then like,
Right.
your
Sorry. See
entire
you
network,
later.
yeah,
Yeah.
your entire
Yeah.
network kind of ghosts you and like you disappear into the woodworks. So, first of all, like marking the moment, that can
Yeah.
be an actual ceremony, that can be a ritual of some sort, that can be a journaling exercise. If it is a journaling exercise, one of the things I actually recommend is like, what are the things you learned? Do a list of all the things you learned. What are the things that lit you up about your job and the people that you knew?
Yeah.
What about this old version of yourself did you really feel grateful for and would like to bring forward? And along the lines with that, you create a to don't list. Like here are all the things I don't want to do anymore. Here are all the
Yeah.
ways of being that I don't want to be a part of. Here are the problems I don't want to solve.
Right.
That'll start laying the groundwork a little bit, both for the ability to grieve what was and move on to what is now happening. But it
Yeah.
also gives you some fodder for conversations when you start reaching out and start talking with people and networking with people. And that's a whole other conversation around like how to network and what to do around that, which we can maybe touch on if we have some time. So ceremonializing and creating some space and some time, a few days, a few weeks, a few months, if you have the runway to do it,
Yeah.
to allow yourself to settle, to catch up, and to actually transition. So this would be the first thing that I would recommend.
Yeah.
Settle, ground. Um, Tied with that, there's a lot of research about reflective journaling. And there's a researcher, James Pennebaker, wrote quite a bit about this. I think it was University of Arizona, many years ago. And he basically talked about, and his researchers talked about the power of writing out your own narrative. Like who was I? Who am I now? Who do I want to be? And I've actually got a journaling prompt guide. If folks are interested, they can hit me up either on LinkedIn or email me after the call, and I'll send it to you. And basically, these journaling prompts are daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and yearly journaling prompts to help you create a cadence of awareness and self-awareness
Yeah.
and connection with what's important to you.
Right.
And these practices, I believe, and research shows, are transformational for people. There's actually research that shows that people that do this type of work after a job loss, those who do that type of journaling have far greater success, up to 60 or 70% greater success in finding a new job and finding an aligned job than
Yeah.
those who don't do that at all.
Yeah. That's
So
yeah.
again, reflection. Journaling is
Yep.
one way of doing that. Another way of doing that is therapy. Big fan. Uh,
Yeah.
Coaching. Somebody asked a question about coaching earlier, which I'll get to in a second, but working with somebody, even if it's just a friend, to reflect back to you, like, what are your strengths? What are you good at? What do we appreciate about you? And digging into that stuff early days will help that what ends up tending to happen later on, where the self-doubt creeps in, what could I have done differently creeps in, why won't anybody answer my emails creeps in,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Exactly.
then we just add to the pile. So that self-reflection, I think, is really, really important.
I'm going to interject something here really quick
Please.
because it hit me because when you talk about self-reflection, when you're in the midst of a like these really depressive moments when you're, just after you've been laid off, part of the thing I found personally, and the reason that I had some of those feelings was because I kept projecting the worry into the future.
Yeah.
Because everything that we want to make bad in our lives always comes from us framing it into the what if, um, I don't have enough, or
Yeah.
doubt. And I'm just gonna there's a book I recommend people read because it helped me reframe some of these reflective moments to help me go, oh yeah. And it's
Hmm.
called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Um, and there's a piece in there where he talks about how like disease or thinking is a disease.
Hmm.
And he says basically you have to reframe it as almost pulling yourself away from the feeling because the feeling that you're having is not what you're actually worried about. You're just trying to observe that thing that's happening
Hmm.
and you move back. And I started to when I got into those modes of feeling like kind of over panicked or anxiety about like what if, how if, was what can I control now?
Hmm.
And then reframe the feeling. So like if I started feeling like anxious, I would basically say, and this sounds really basic and stupid, but I would just reframe it and say, no, I'm not. I'm not anxious. I understand that I'm feeling a little bit like this, but that's just the feeling. That's not who I am as an individual. So I think
Yeah.
as part of like reflective, that reflective nature of what you're doing, realize to pull yourself into the
Hmm.
moment and it'll help you instead of projecting out into the what ifs, you focus on what I have right now and what I can take moving forward.
Yeah,
So
that's
I like that.
powerful. And I can actually simplify that even further. What you're talking about is human behavior, like
Yeah.
just everyday human behavior. We have a
Yep.
tendency to spend most of our time in the past or in the future.
Yes.
We
Yep.
ruminate, we self-abuse ourselves, we give ourselves trouble for like not doing it right, not knowing better, not seeing the signs. What could I
Yep.
have done differently? We spend all this time. Why did this happen? Who was responsible for this? All of these things. It's a waste of time.
Right.
We also spend a lot of time in the future. What ifs, anxiety, panic. Oh my
Yeah.
God, can't see across the horizon. What you're pointing to and what Eckhart Tolle and a lot of other folks do, and this is the basis of the third thing I was going to mention, is mindfulness.
Hmm.
Mindfulness has been thrown around quite a bit over the last decade or so, and it's gotten a little bit diluted. But really, in my impression and in the lineage that I studied, which is called insight meditation, think
Hmm.
like folks like Sharon Salzberg, Jack Kornfield, Tara Brach, Joseph Goldstein. Like these folks had basically brought over practices from the East to the West in the 60s and the 50s. The practice, the mindfulness practice that I do is basically arriving to what's already happening in this moment. It's not clearing the mind. It's not getting to some gooey center in the middle of your chest someplace. It's not even trying to cultivate calm. Actually, it's quite the opposite of that often. It's arriving to what's actually happening. And the thing that you just mentioned in terms of the reframe, to me, that's actually bringing awareness online and noticing feelings or thoughts as objects of awareness versus identity.
Yeah.
As opposed to it being like, this is me, these feelings and these thoughts are me, it's I notice fear, I notice anxiety.
Yeah.
That slight distance and practicing that distance over time allows us to gain some mastery over these feelings and thoughts and gives us a little bit of space. Viktor Frankl talks about this in terms of the space between stimulus and response.
Yeah.
In that gap is actually our freedom. So if we can give ourselves more time to slow down, to be with what is, to allow ourselves to name these things, and hopefully offer some compassion and curiosity around those instead of judgment, then we can actually move forward and we're not letting those feelings and thoughts drive the bus.
Yeah.
We're not disavowing them or saying that they're wrong or trying to get rid of them. We're just putting them in the back seat of the bus and we're driving the bus.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole I felt that when you're allowing yourself to uh, focus on that and just kind of let those feelings be whatever they are and just observe them, like you said, from a distance, then it doesn't get in our way of doing the things that are actually productive. And um, so thinking about that, and I don't know what direction you were going, but like so as you were coming out of this, the productive things that you started to do, let's dive into that and
Yeah.
how you get into that frame of mind because again, it's a little hard to shift from kind of like that dark everything is going, is the earth is everything's going to crash, whatever.
Yeah.
But right? And then how do we move ourselves forward so that we're doing productive things and moving in the direction that we need to be able to say like, yeah, I want to I want to start a podcast or I want to go start
Yeah.
a business or whatever.
Yeah, well, the first thing I would start with is what do we mean, what do we mean by productive? Let's be really careful about language here. Productivity is a toxic trait of postmodern late stage capitalism. Like
Yeah.
the whole damn thing is revolving around our ability to produce. Like even the
Yeah.
word productive, produce.
Yeah.
The expectation is that we are outputting in some meaningful way to help GDP, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So our training, our education, our leadership development, our ways of being, our thoughts about ourselves and what success means or not, it's all based around this like Calvinist approach, this late
Hmm.
stage capitalism approach to productivity. And then we categorize ourselves as either being productive or not. So
Right.
not to dog on that specifically, but I'm gonna. So what do
Oh,
we
go
mean by
for
productive? Yeah, like what do we mean by
it. Call
productive?
me out.
Yeah. So what I encourage people to think about when we think about productivity is like, first of all, I don't believe in goals, which is ironic because I actually have a workbook that helps you figure out what your goals are. But
Right.
goals are tricky. They're really tricky. Goals tend to be this destination that we're trying to get to. What I
Right.
encourage is more ways of being. How do I want to show up for the rest of this call, for the rest of the day, for the rest of the year, for the
Hmm.
rest of my life? Can I cultivate the qualities that would be necessary for that to occur?
Yeah.
So getting clear about what your not goals, but what your maybe North Star is, your general inclination is, even if you don't have it fully fleshed out yet, is really, really important. This is where actually a coach can help out quite a bit. Most of the
Right.
work you do with clients, I'm not a career coach. I'm not going to be good at it. I'm not going to be able to help you with your resume or
Right.
can't really necessarily give you strategies on how to like, apply for jobs in a certain way. I work a lot with networking and what that means and how to show up authentically and how to connect meaningfully with other people in a
Yes.
non-transactional way.
Yeah.
But, what I'm not going to be able to necessarily help somebody with is kind of figure out like the nuts and bolts of like a system of effective job search.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a minute. But I think what's important at that stage is like, okay, how entrepreneurial do I feel? Is this something I'd be interested in exploring? Maybe it is a small project like a podcast or a newsletter, or maybe you're going to write your book finally. Maybe you're going to learn how to like basket weave or whatever it is that you've been holding off all this time because you've been so focused on the job.
Yeah.
So finding some elements there, bonus points if you can find something that brings you joy and brings levity, double bonus points if you can do something that you're really, really good at.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
maybe not go out
Because
there and start a brand new hobby all of a sudden again. You really want to start building that sense of confidence in the doing of things that you are good at.
Yeah, because to add to that too is that we typically look at things that we want to do, and there's this level of, I'll call it resistance of like, I want to go out and let's say I want to be a car mechanic, but man, I really don't like being around cars, but it pays me a lot of money or whatever, right? And so, but what we sometimes fail to realize is the easiest path is usually the best. And because we think easy is equated to like not hard. That's
Mhm.
not always true because even if I do something that I really enjoy, there's still going to be some struggle in learning it and learning to be able to be good at it. And I have to learn new things like for example, like podcasting, right? There's some things that I really enjoy about it, but I don't know certain technical aspects. So it's going to be really hard for me to try to figure out a piece of it. But I will do that because I really enjoy what I'm doing with that talking to people, and you can
Totally.
apply that to any space.
Yeah,
Anyway, so that was something about like the easy doing something that you really like because it is easy is not a
totally.
bad thing.
And you're getting really close to language that I use. So I have this whole framework. Time, energy, and attention equals capacity. Time,
I love that.
energy, attention equals capacity. What do I mean by that? We can time block all day and all night, right? We can create these really complex calendars. We show up to that moment when we're supposed to be doing the thing, squirrel, right?
Yeah,
Or
right.
fire drill, or I don't feel good, or any number of things that keeps us from actually doing the thing that we've time blocked for. Oftentimes, the reason that happens is that we either don't have a good grasp on our attention and what's actually distracting us, social media, the
Yeah.
internet broadly, gestures broadly to anything in modern society. This is all designed to pull our attention away from the things that actually matter.
Right.
So
Right.
honing our attention through practices like mindfulness and journaling, through being careful about our time and blocking it out in ways that's in alignment with what our energy is day to day or week over week is important. This is a big overlooked thing. We tend to try to often squeeze things in periods of time during the day where it just doesn't make any sense.
It-
Like, I don't know what time it is. It's almost 4 o'clock here today. I've been back to back calls all day.
yeah.
The pull for me might be to be like, oh, I'm just going to do a bunch of copy editing on my email series that I need to finish. By the way, sign up for my newsletter. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that, right? I'm not going to do that because my brain is toast. This
Yeah.
call is going to be my last call. So thank you for ending my day with a
You're
better.
very welcome.
Um, so aligning that is really important. Well, how do you know? How do you know what your energy is going to be like on a Tuesday afternoon or a Wednesday afternoon at 5 o'clock? You're not going to know unless you actually run an experiment to find out.
Right. Right.
So I encourage people to track time, energy, and attention. My boy Kevin, I don't know where he is in the chat here, but he actually is helping me out with an app right now, which if you're interested, we can actually beta test that.
That'd
I
be
will try to
cool.
find the link, or maybe Kevin, if you can hear me, if you can find the link and drop it in there. People could play around with it, but what it allows you to do is actually track your time, energy, and attention over a 48-hour period, just to give you
Interesting.
a bit of
Like
a
it.
snapshot of like what your energy does day to day or week to week. And with that information, then you could start to make small adjustments. Like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe I'm not going to do copy editing at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. What would be a better thing for me to do during that slot? For me,
Right.
I'm going to go outside and go for a walk. That's what I need to do so that I can perform well tomorrow.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
this is part of a bigger conversation of how to align your time, energy, and attention in a way that really serves you to help increase your capacity. This comes in very important when you are depleted, when
Yeah.
you have just gone through a burnout experience. Your capacity is going to be really short. There's a
Yeah.
whole school of thought around this called the window of tolerance. When you talk about psychology, we know this as hyper or hypoarousal, or maybe anxiety and lethargy and depression. It's the two
Yeah.
different poles of our window of tolerance. When we've been
Sure.
laid off or gone through a big shock in life, our window of tolerance might be really, really low. We might fly off the handle. We might get anxious very quickly. We might fall into depression and put the covers over our heads. This is all normal behavior, by the way. So it's not to give judgment to that experience. Let's be
Right.
aware of it and let that be what it is. But there's these practices that we can actually put into play, like finding joy, like finding movement, like connecting with other people, that allows us to increase our capacity over time. And if we align the things that we need to do, like applying for jobs or redoing our resume or networking,
Yeah.
we can arrange those in such a way that creates structure and that allows us to actually flow. And this is kind of where I was trying to get back to with what you were saying, Bryce.
Yeah.
Follow the energy. The
I
energy will
agree.
point you in the way that it needs to go. And
Yeah.
if you can get into this attunement with your own lived experience, then you're going to have better results in the long term. Kevin, thank you, Kevin. Kevin just dropped a link in the chat. It's still in beta. But check this out. Like, this is a really small version of a bigger audit that we're going to do. And this is the work that I do with my clients within the first few weeks of working together. We do a time, energy, and attention audit. We help them forecast over a course of a week what that
Yep.
actually looks like. We get real about what is. Then we forecast forward and try to build out what would be a perfect, or I need to revise this language. I keep using perfect. There's no such thing. An ideal day or an ideal week. And then
Yeah.
we run experiments to see if we can slowly move our schedule towards that ideal day or ideal week. And we make adjustments along the way.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
creates the foundation for everything else that has to come after that in terms of the job search.
Yeah, because you need that energy flow, like you said, because I found that as well as like when I structure my day around my where my energy is at, it really does help to accentuate what are the things that I really want to focus on. Because I've found if we're talking about job search specifically, I do about 20% of that
Mhm.
on focus on like maybe I'm applying or doing something around that. It's not a lot. And all of my other stuff, 80 to 90% of it is focused on those things that I'm finding creatively energetic.
Yeah.
So whether it's doing something like this or networking or going and visiting somebody and having lunch like I did yesterday, you want to focus on those energies because then it gives you that it replenishes your capacity to
That's
go
exactly right.
do stuff, right?
Yeah, that's
And
exactly
that's
right.
yeah, and that's where you want to be at the end of the day, at the end of the week, or wherever you're at with it, because your optimism increases with your capacity, with your energy. Is my
Absolutely.
take, right?
Absolutely. Tied to this is another thing that I hear from a lot of clients. A lot of times they'll come to me and they're like, "Oh, my confidence is shot. I want coaching on how to rebuild my confidence." And I'm always like, "I'm sorry, I can't help you with that." Um, Confidence, in my opinion, is a lagging measure. It's something that shows up to us after we've repeatedly done something successfully, and we're like, "Oh, I'm good at this thing."
Hmm.
Confidence isn't something that we go out there and seek. It's not something that we practice in the traditional sense, except for what you're sharing right now, Bryce. It's like it's doing things you're good at, things that challenge you in fun ways. There's this difference between distress and eustress. I don't know if you've
Hmm.
heard of these terms.
Oh yeah,
So we,
yeah,
we often think about stress and distress. Oh, I'm in distress. There's
yeah.
also eustress, which is like positive stress, like
Awesome.
this. This is a
Yeah,
little bit eustressy for me.
yeah.
It's like, like a sweat under the armpits a little bit just 'cause I'm talking. There's people here,
Yeah.
but this is invigorating to me. I'm going to feel really good after this.
Same.
So cultivating ways to foster that type of flow state, that type of joy, that type of self-regard that's positive is really,
Yeah.
really critical. Um, Another piece of this too, it's like, we also tend to try to like seek for purpose. Like, oh, I need to find what my purpose is now that I've been laid off. Forget about it. You're never going to find it. Purpose isn't out there either. It's not further down the trail. It's another lagging measure. We
Yeah.
look back at our deeds, we look back at the choices that we've made in hindsight, and we're like, oh, that's what I was here on this world to do.
Yeah.
So what I encourage folks to kind of think about is like there's this difference between an infinite game and a finite game. A finite game is I got to get a job.
Yeah.
An
Right.
infinite game are what types of problems do I want to solve and
There you
how
go.
what
That's
do I
it.
want to do with those problems? Like how do I want to define my own life?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Tony Fadell, who worked at Apple and was the basically the father of the iPod and iPhone, basically said, if you want to find something that you want to do, go find what you want to learn about.
There it is.
And that to me was like, yep. That's
Yep.
because you'll solve a problem because if you're learning about something, there's always going to be problems out there. There's always going to be gaps that we can fill.
Yeah.
And if we are curious, interested, and want to learn, it shows up because I think some people have the wrong way about like looking for a job is that like you said, it's kind of this finite thing. I need to find a job and then I need to ask people about finding a job.
Yeah.
Whereas if you take the tact of no, I'm going to solve a problem and I'm going to put myself out there as to here's how I'm doing that.
Hmm.
You'll get noticed and
That's it.
people will start to you'll attract things versus I think the other way is it can push people or things out
Yeah.
and that's how you want to kind of do it. So that's when you said that triggered that thought
Yeah.
about yeah, we want to track things and that's how we can do that by learning and then being curious.
Yeah, that's beautiful. There's two pieces that I want to drop in here, and I also just want to let folks know, Bryce. I don't know about you. I can go over if we need to go over the top of the hour because I see we're getting close to that. I want to make sure
Yep.
people have time for Q&A.
Yeah.
There's two last things I'd love to be able to drop for folks just to kind of
Do it.
consider. Um, One is the job search and how that works, or how
Hmm.
I've seen it work for folks that are successful, and then there's entrepreneurship. There's a whole workshop I have not done yet, but I think I want to.
Okay.
So you want to be a freelance, so you want to be an entrepreneur, or so you want
Yeah.
to be a business owner. And what I think this workshop would be like a 45-minute talk to try to convince you not to do it.
I
And at
love
the
it.
end of that, if at the end of that talk, if you're still like, yeah, fuck yeah, I want to try this out,
Right. Yeah.
God bless. Like I'll help you from
Go
there
for
on
it.
out. The reason I mentioned that, and the reason I'm starting with entrepreneurship, it's kind of the same way with the job search. There is no there is no better therapy in the world than starting your own business.
Yeah.
Maybe having
Interesting.
kids. I've never had kids, so I can't say, but you might know better than me.
Yes.
The mirrors that get put up, the spotlight that gets put on your struggles, your insecurities, your hangups, your money stories, all the things that trap you and make you feel stuck, you cannot look away. It will be
Hmm.
right there. It'll show up in your sales calls. It'll show up in the conversations that you have with clients. It'll show up with what you say yes to and what you say no to.
Yeah.
So there's a whole other conversation we could talk about that journey, what entrepreneurship has been like for me since I got laid off. I had the benefit of having had a business 20 years prior. So I had already
Yeah.
been through that. I knew that that was what I was really excited about. So when I got laid off, the problem I wanted to solve was not taking data from spreadsheets and putting them in presentations for executive leadership to ignore. I'm done with that.
Yeah.
What I was interested in was I want to solve the problems of being in business for myself.
Mhm.
That's where it started. I didn't know what the
Yeah.
business was. I didn't know what the business model was, but I was like, these are things I'm interested in learning: sales, marketing, online marketing, content creation, networking, all of these things. And
Yeah.
then I got more and more close to like what the actual problems I wanted to solve for other people were, and off
Yeah.
we go. And now I have a successful coaching business.
Yeah.
The other piece to this is the job search.
Hmm.
I can help to a certain degree how to talk in interviews and things like that. That's not a game I'm interested in helping foster more growth in. It's not problems I'm interested in solving. What I'm interested in solving problems for people on are the same questions I get from people all the time. I don't have a network. I don't know how to network.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a big part of the coaching work that I do with folks. It's what does networking really mean? It maybe has a negative connotation. It feels slimy. It feels greasy. I don't know. It feels gross, right? And we
Yeah.
get on these calls and we're like, I need a job. And we come in with that I need a job energy. And to your point, Bryce, it pushes people away. And they're
Yeah.
like, I don't know how to help you. Sorry. Like, I need a job, right? If we approach these conversations, and before I get to that, the metaphor I use a lot of time, maybe it's been a while for you, Bryce, but like when you're dating and maybe it's like the first date you show up with to your partner or the person that
Yeah.
you're potentially courting, and you
Hmm.
show up with this energy of like, are we going to get married? Are we going to live forever? Are we going to buy a house and have kids and all this stuff? It's a little off-putting, right? It's like, fuck, I don't know. Um, and that's oftentimes what happens. We put ourselves in these environments, in these conversations with that energy, with like, are you going to give me a job? Am I good enough?
Yeah. Yeah.
See me, see
Yeah.
me.
Take my
It's not going to
money.
work, right?
Yeah.
So what I encourage is again the same kind of concept of can we approach these conversations with the word you use, beautiful, curiosity?
Yep.
Can we approach it with an outcome in mind? I'm not going to join a conversation, a networking call or a sales call, assuming I'm going to close a client. If I do that, they're going to feel it the whole way
Hmm.
through.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is I'm showing up as a doctor. I'm diagnosing. Is there a problem here I can solve?
Hmm.
Is there something here I can add value to? If not, I'm going to refer you to somebody else.
Yes.
I'll say thank you very much for your attention and your time. It's been really good to meet you. Let me know how I can support you in the future.
Yep.
Or it's going to be an opportunity for something else. But going into it with curiosity and this open kind of experience without a transactional attitude
Yeah.
leaves a feeling with people that creates conversations like this 2 years later.
Yeah.
It's just like, fuck, I like this dude. I want to do whatever he's up to. I want to support what he's up to. Sorry, I keep throwing F-bombs. Um, that's what you get at 4 o'clock in the afternoon for me.
Right.
So thinking about this whole approach of networking is not as a transactional thing, but as an opportunity for real connection, not
Yeah.
only with another person, but also for yourself.
Yeah.
So if you don't go into entrepreneurship, try this on for size. It's an exercise that a sales trainer gave me that is what jump started my business, and it's the one I still use today. It's called 30 by 30.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Okay.
hate this. You're gonna hate it. For 30 days,
Uh-huh.
reach out to 30 people per
Okay.
day.
Yep.
So just the
30
math
30
on
people per day.
per
Okay.
day. That's on
Okay.
social, that's on text, that's on email, that's
Wherever.
phone calls, that's follow-ups of prior calls from the day before. It all
Okay.
counts. So you don't need to like every single day 30 fresh people. It might be another person that you're already connected with. But
Okay.
just the energy that that stirs up will
Oh yeah.
create connection, and it
Yeah.
will create an opportunity to meet people and to
Yep.
share what problems you want to solve, share what you're excited about, and potentially set up a beneficial exchange, not from a place of transactionality, but just sheer wanting to help each other.
Yeah. Yeah, because and to add on and end almost on that, because like you said, I really want to come back to this. I would love to
Yeah.
set up another one that we could
Yeah,
talk
let's
about
totally do it.
networking,
Happy to.
because that would be so much fun. Because the point you made about where you can be excited about what you're doing. People will feel it and
That's
they'll
it.
want to, and like you said, they'll be attracted to that. So curiosity and then, yeah, being excited about what you're doing and what you want to do, even if you're not doing it right now. Let's just say it's like, hey, I want to do this.
Yeah. So I'm curious
Share
about
it
it.
with people because then people can help you move that mountain if you need
Yeah.
to,
And
right?
let's just model this for folks, just so you understand what it feels like.
Yeah.
Hey, Bryce, do you have 30 minutes to catch up for a minute? I'm looking for a job. I see you're working at this company. Could you give me a referral? How does
Yeah.
that feel? Does that feel like
Yeah.
something
It doesn't feel as it's again it's kind of needy.
it's needy?
It feels needy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I haven't worked with you. I can't
Yeah.
refer you and
Yeah.
vouch for your credibility as an employee. That puts me on the line.
Yeah.
Let's try something else. Hey, Bryce, I got laid off a few months ago. I've been exploring what's coming next for me. I've been curious about this product and this topic and this other thing. I know these are things that you're interested into. Do you have a half hour or so just to rap about this and kind of talk about the things that are exciting you in the industry and what you're seeing coming down the pike?
Totally different because I would say, yeah, I'd love to chat. I
Yeah.
would be more willing to chat at that point.
Yeah. So
100%.
again, this isn't like we get this all the time in the DMs on LinkedIn if you're on LinkedIn for any length of time.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll find you 10 to 15 clients in 30 days with this like one little hack.
Mm,
And it's like the first message they send. These are not exchanges to start with. These are
right.
way down the line after you've engaged and you've shared some ideas and maybe shared activity on social media together and like you've built that rapport,
Yeah.
coming at it from a perspective of curiosity and graciousness and appreciation for what the other person is up to,
Yep.
giving them an opportunity to talk about themselves is going to go so much farther than asking for a referral. And then there's a bunch of
100%.
other tactics and techniques we could get into in another call, but I just wanted to drop that as like a thought starter for folks. As you're thinking
Absolutely.
about the job search, focus maybe there a little bit and let me know how it's working out for you.
Yeah, I love that because that is just spot on with that. I'm going to drop a couple links in here, and we're going to let people ask some questions. Oops, there are the links. Here are
And
some links.
while you're doing that, Bryce, I just wanted to kind of go up and name a few folks had dropped some comments in here. Jennifer said that she needed that workshop.
Yeah,
Jennifer, let me know what topics you want to cover on that. I will end up doing that one at some point. I also talk a lot about this on my newsletter and on Substack and on LinkedIn. Kevin dropped the link for the little mini audit. Let us know how that's working. We're in beta and kind of improving that over time. Manoj is here. She's got to go, but she probably already left. Thank you. Uh, Rhonda with two N's. I've never seen a spelling like that. That's really cool. Uh, Eckhart Tolle said something like living in the past leads to regret and guilt. Living in the future leads to worry and fear. 100%.
love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, totally,
And
totally.
then Rick, Rick said journaling prompts. I don't know if that's sarcasm quotes or you're actually just saying that, but yeah, journalism prompts sounds very appealing. It is free therapy, some of the best therapy you can actually do. And Dania, I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, said, I heard getting with a coach is great, but what if you cannot afford it at all? This is a
Good
really,
question.
really good
That's
question.
a really good question.
There, so look, the therapy industrial complex is hosed. It's a complete mess. Getting the kind of therapy that you need is really, really hard. Coaching is kind of the same way.
Yeah,
There are many, many resources that you can take advantage of for low cost or pro bono coaching. It depends on the industry that you're in. What I would look at, and I don't know if she's still here, but if you could drop a couple ideas of like what industry you're in, what kind of topics you're kind of dancing around, there might actually be organizations that you can pair up with to get that complimentary coaching. A lot of new coaches need coaching hours and they will do coaching hours for free in order to be able to get the certification that they need. So sometimes you can actually go to IFC or other websites, International Coach Federation, ICF is what I meant to say, not
yeah,
IFC. It's the Film Foundation.
right.
They might have jobs. But going to various different organizations, maybe a local chamber of commerce often, or a business development group, if you're doing
Yep.
more entrepreneurial stuff, often has free coaching. There's also tools like, is it BetterUp? I always get it confused.
I think it's better. I think it's better up. Is
BetterUp
because there's
has
the other
coaching
one
built
too.
into it.
Yep.
There's
Yep.
a bunch of different ones, but one of the things that I would really caution folks about when it comes to coaching, none of the clients I've worked with have a budget that they have set aside for coaching. No one.
Yeah. Yep.
You don't have like a rainy day fund for coaching. What I try to encourage people to think about is the long-term investment. Like, let's say you're a tech worker. There's a lot of clients I work with. They're getting paid somewhere between 150,000 to 500,000 and up per year.
Yeah.
Losing a job and being out of work for a year or 2 years is a $500,000 plus proposition.
Yep.
Spending 10 grand on a coach to get out of your own way and get some processes and systems in place so you can better utilize your time, energy, and attention towards the things that are actually important to you,
Yeah.
that's way worth more than whatever I'm charging.
Yeah.
And the net impact down the road of that can be exponential. So it's not just the couple years that you're out of work or the year that you're out of work, it's all the downstream opportunities. Chance favors the prepared mind.
Exactly.
You're
Yep.
missing all these opportunities and you're not going to be prepared to actually take advantage of them without the right kind of support. And I'm not saying that coaches are the only way to go, but I can tell you from personal experience, both in the work that I've done with coaches and also the work I do with my clients, it is rocket fuel on anything that you're trying to work through. The
Hmm.
last thing I'll drop in here, which is not a pitch, it's an opportunity. If anybody is on the call here and they're interested in learning more about what it's like to work with a coach, grab some time with me. I have a 45-minute clarity call that you can apply for,
Yep.
and it's no obligation, doesn't cost anything. We'll spend 45 minutes talking about what you're struggling with, where you're at, where you're trying to get to. If it feels like a fit, I'll offer you a coaching call, complimentary, just to get a sense of what it's like to work with a coach, what it's like to work with me. I
Yep.
can tell you all day and all night what it's like to work with a coach, but showing you is going to be way more effective. So it's an open invitation to folks. You can find that on my website, and I'll drop the link here in a minute,
Drop it in there for you
rebellioncollective.co.
so people can get it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that and absolutely, I think that and all the things that you talked about are perfect examples of where you can get some form of coaching if you don't have the money to go do it. But if you do, it's worth the investment to
I'm
do
also going to
that.
share something controversial here, which if anyone knows me, this coming out of my mouth is going to be really surprising. ChatGPT is actually a pretty good coach. So you can actually
It's
start with
not bad.
LLMs. You can start with LLMs. They're there. Don't turn yourself into a cult leader. But there's power behind some of these tools. And really the reflection prompts that I shared earlier in that guide, push those through to ChatGPT. Start creating a persona and identity in ChatGPT, or
Yep.
well, there's other ones you can use. Um, Use that as a temperature check or a barometer for your own intuition and your own feelings. I wouldn't go through them as gospel, but what I would do is I would use those as a pressure check to sense in, like, okay, like, what other questions should I be asking? Ask ChatGPT that.
Yeah.
I take transcripts with permission from calls that I have with sales prospects or with coaching clients, and I
Yeah.
run them through ChatGPT and I query ChatGPT. Am I doing a good job? Everyone loves that validation.
It's a
Um,
great idea. Yeah.
yeah, is this in alignment with MCC level coaching? Is this ethical? Is this effective in the way that I did it? What questions didn't I ask? Where did I, miss something? All
Sure.
of these ways of using this information is super helpful. And when you're doing these 30 by 30 calls, which I know you're all going to do, um, you can take the transcripts from those calls, again, with permission, and throw them into ChatGPT and start to build yourself out a dossier of yourself to then help you answer some of those questions of like, what problems do I want to be solving?
I
What
love
am I
that.
missing? What's behind the
That's
scenes
great.
here?
See, I just learned something. I'm gonna go do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I keep track of stuff, and it's funny that you talk about, I'll drop it in, but to do it cohesively so that you pull it all together, that's good stuff. That's good
Yeah.
stuff. So, before we leave, I just want to give everybody an opportunity. If you haven't asked a question, to drop a question in here for Nick or myself. We have a few more minutes. I think we can basically plan to go over.
Yeah, and I'm happy to go as long as people have questions. And you know what? What I might also encourage to folks, um, my time ain't cheap. So if you want some coaching, if you want some suggestions and some advice right here in this moment, we can actually bring you on and have a little bit of a conversation with you. I assume we can do that, Bryce. Um, and maybe solve
Sure.
a quick problem for you and help you actually uncover a challenge that you're working on. Or if you just want to drop a question in the chat, we can dig into it there too.
Either way, we can do that, whatever everybody's time limits are or whatever. I'm good for another couple minutes anyway. So,
Yeah.
but
Oh, and
yeah,
Dania is still here.
yep.
Awesome. So they said, you're right about ChatGPT, but I will say that I thought about using a coach before I was laid off in corporate. First of all, I'm sorry you got laid off. Fast forward to working in a nonprofit and now getting laid off from a nonprofit. I wish I had
Interesting.
worked with one. Thank you guys. Oh, thank you.
Thank
Dania,
you.
again, apologies if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Reach out. If you'd like to talk, we'd like to chat, happy to put you in touch with resources, or maybe we can actually just sit down and chat as well, and I might be able to be useful to you in that capacity.
Yep. And I would highly endorse that. I've talked to Nick a number of times. He's fantastic to just kind of sit down and use that clarity call if you can. It's really good. And same if anybody needs any help with connections. That's the reason I started building this series and the things I'm doing is like we can put you in touch with people that are gonna help. And
Yeah.
that's the whole idea.
Yeah, and
So
maybe Bryce, just to maybe give some time for folks to come up with some questions. I can't actually see how many people are in the chat still, but just want to give you some real praise for what you've been doing. I've seen your trajectory and the way you've managed these layoffs. We've had many conversations around
oh
this.
yeah.
I feel like you've really handled this with grace, and the work that you've done in terms of networking and bringing people together and being a super connector. Like, I can't even tell you the number of times you've connected me with people already. It's probably about a half a dozen or more at this point. This is the work of finding a job. This is the work of building community. We
Yeah.
can't get through this alone. Like, this whole lone wolf approach, this, like, I don't know what the term for it would be, this American ideal that we are just out here on our own,
Silo
is
doing whatever.
nonsense.
Yep.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
Yeah.
Collective community resilience is really true resilience. What happens
Hmm.
when a disaster happens in a town? People come together, they bring the shared resources, and they support each other through it. Asking for help is the most difficult part of
It
this.
is. Yeah.
So, this is the work we can help you with as a coach or as a mentor, as with what Bryce is doing.
Yep.
Um, yeah,
But yeah, I would second that and get yourself involved somehow.
yeah,
Like you're again going back to the community idea is that you want to be able to and I found that this is the really interesting thing, and this is that whole idea of reciprocity in an interesting way, is that when you are willing to give part of what you do or your knowledge or your skill set or whatever at this point in your if you're job searching and you're out of a job or whatever, is that get involved because it ends up coming back.
that's right.
And it's not a tit for tat thing. It's more of like, hey, I'm generally, we want to generally put people in good positions to be helped.
Yeah,
And so when we're doing that and we're actively doing that, we increase our luck surface areas, Jim Collins calls it, and that'll put us in contact with people that are willing to help you. And then as you are out helping others, that gets kind of sent around, and then people pick up on it, and
yeah,
they'll reach out to you naturally. It's
that's
not
right.
even a thing. It'll just be like somebody will reach out of the blue, and you're like, what? I didn't
Yeah.
even know that person existed.
Yeah, and there's science behind this too. Like, there's hormones that happen when you're of service in community. When you help other people, it's that feel-good feeling of being part of something bigger than yourself. So it's the same thing I recommend to my clients. It's like, and I would actually, I'm gonna make Kevin really awkward here. I don't know if he's still in the chat, but like he's a great example. Kevin has been part of the changing work community and some of the work that I've been doing with Rebellion Collective for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And he's been gracious and supportive and offering his time, even though he's in a position right now where he's looking for work. If you are interested in having an app built, if you're looking for someone that's interested in tech that can be an amazing operations person, talk to Kevin. Or if you know folks that are looking for that, talk to Kevin. But he's turned into a really good friend, somebody like I really trust and count on for
Yeah.
some really good things.
Yeah.
The only reason that happened is because he was bold enough to reach out and offer support for something that I was working on.
Yep.
And now I'm going to be a cheerleader for him for as long as he'll let me. So,
Yep.
as an example, this is the type of reciprocity that occurs when you approach being of service and being part of something bigger than yourself without an expectation of something in return.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. Because yeah, that's the way the world works if you're really working the world the right way, because it just the stuff that we've dealt with in our world currently is negative, and it's abrasive, and this is the way that Nick just described it is exactly what we're doing, and we're trying to do what he's accomplishing. And I appreciate him for, gosh, the last few years that we've talked. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're fantastic.
Yeah, likewise, man.
Aaron's got
Mutual
something. Any
appreciation club.
Absolutely. Aaron says, any thoughts for folks in extended job searches who know who they are and what they're looking for, but aren't getting any traction? I'm struggling to find ways to contribute. That
Yeah.
is a great question, Aaron. Do you have any thoughts, Nick?
I do, but I almost would want to kick it over to you too, because like you've literally
Sure.
been through this. So
Yeah.
I can go first if you want to go first.
I'll let you go and then I'll give my two
Sure.
cents.
So first of all, Aaron, I'm so sorry, man. I'm assuming, man, apologies, gendered your name. Um, the extended job search. I've been there. 9/11 happened. It took me 2 years to find a job. I ended up working like the most menial jobs that you've ever heard of in your entire life just to get by, just to make ends meet. I didn't have
Hmm.
a network at the time. I didn't know anything about networking. This was also pre-social media, so I'm dating myself a little bit. But yeah, if you know who you are and you know what you're looking for, but you're not getting traction in terms of, I'm assuming job applications is what you're not getting traction here on. It's
Hmm.
the model that I was actually talking about before. It's the way I look at it, it's concentric circles in terms of leads. And we're just going to use leads as a general catch-all term, whether you're looking for clients or whether you're looking for potential connections that could lead you to a job. You start with friends and family, you start with friendlies, you start with people that you know, and you continuously move further out that circle to people that you know a little bit, but not so well. Maybe they're social media contacts, maybe they're people that you worked with in other departments and so on. And the conversation is the same thing. I got laid off a while back. This is what I've been up to since then. Here are the things I'm interested in. Here's what I know about myself. Here's what I know about what I want to be doing. Are you open to have a bit of a conversation about your experience along these things? And there's different language that you can workshop around that. But literally getting into motion and talking to people, it feels like a total slog. And I don't recommend doing more than 2 or 3 calls a day.
Hmm.
But
Yep.
getting this momentum and this activity going on, it's a more of a medium or a long-term strategy. But I
Yep.
am currently getting calls from people that I talked to 3 years ago. Now they're ready to work with me. Now they're in a place where they can actually do this type of work. It's the same thing with job search. It's just it's an awareness building campaign,
Hmm.
and it's a clarity around what your problems you want to solve are. Like, what is it like with Bryce? Community, connection. There's some tech in there. There's a lot of things that it's like, if I'm looking at things that Bryce might be good at, or if somebody's talking to me about a job opportunity, these are the things that I'm thinking about
Yep.
when I think about Bryce. So, and hopefully I nailed some of those things, but just getting your name out there and being at the tip of people's mind as they're out in the world is going to go a lot farther than just hitting auto apply. Not to say that this is what you're doing, Aaron, or just applying for hundreds and hundreds of resume or job applications. Really building your network and trying to build those relationships in a way that people can help be your cheerleading squad and can be your advocates and your marketing team is going to go a lot farther. I'm not sure if that's helpful. Let me know if that's getting close to an answer for you, but happy to follow up with that too if you have more
Yeah.
thoughts.
And I don't know, Aaron, how much you have done in terms of what you're connecting and how you're connecting and who you're connecting with, but the couple of things in if you're looking at a long-term job search is it's a lot of what Nick just said, and being able to, like, what I've found is that if you can come up with like I said, if you get involved with something, that's a great way to really expand your network. For example, like I connected with somebody on LinkedIn who here in Utah is creating a nonprofit, and it's around autism and disabilities and stuff like that. My son's got autism, and so it naturally generated interest and me wanting to help. Now, what that's done is that's put me, I've almost, with the events that I've gone to, have connected to people because they are business community, like really strong in the community, and they know lots of other people. And I just go talk to them about what I'm interested in, what I'm doing there. They'll ask me why I'm there, and I'll tell them. And then it naturally kind of goes into like, yeah, I'm in the middle of my job search, but I'm also doing these things. And then they'll naturally start to talk a little bit about like, well, let me see if I can connect you with so and so or whatever. But that's where you can really start to expand. And yeah, it's tough when you're extended, but again, these are the things that start to produce, not necessarily when you want them to, because we want it now.
Hmm.
Because yeah, we're trying to find something that's going to feed our families, etc. But if we are, I think, consistent and persistent about that, it'll come around. So
Yeah. And Aaron just followed up here too.
yeah,
He's saying like it is, first of all, let's just call it what it is. It is the most brutal market that I've seen in 30 years.
yeah,
Full
yeah,
stop. Depending on what sector you're in what an industry you're in, it's even worse.
yeah,
What age you're in. I'm a man of a certain age. I'm not getting jobs in tech right now very easily.
yeah.
Um, there's a lot of factors involved here. If you're a minority or a person of color, if you're LGBTQ plus, if you're trans, like there's all these different things that make it infinitely more difficult for you just to be able to get in front of people. And then there's the AI, and then there's blah 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 blah. There's all these things.
Yeah.
What Bryce is saying is really, really important here. Consistency is key. Also, if you're in this situation where you've been trying to reach out to people, your network isn't working, the direct outreach and referrals aren't working. This is almost a shameless plug, so I apologize. This isn't totally like a pitch to just like come join my community, but like this is essentially the type of work that I'm starting to carve out. I'm going to be launching in November, a beta version of a community. It's called the Rebellion Council. The whole idea behind this is to try to help people solve this problem. The two things I hear most often from clients: I don't have a network, I don't know how to network. And maybe a
Mhm.
third distant one is like my network isn't helping.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
idea behind this is to create a community of people who are high achievers, high performers in industries that are adjacent to what you're up to. Part of the remit of that community and that council is that you are bought into helping other people and building community in that way. We'll work on some of the things we're talking about in this call. We'll talk about time, energy, and tension. We'll talk about reclaiming your sense of sovereignty, your sense of self. We'll talk about what it looks like to network and strategies around that effectively. And we'll do that in a fishbowl environment where it's safe to play and experiment and try new things. And then there's also, so there's going to be 90-minute calls once a month that are a part of that. There's a signal chat that you'll have access to in between calls. And then other alternating weeks, you'll have guest speakers come in, like Bryce and others that are talking about job search or entrepreneurship or well-being. And you'll have also spotlight coaching. So there'll be these little groups of 8 to 10 people on alternating weeks, and we'll dive into some of these things. So what we could do, Aaron, is actually pull apart, and Rick, it looks like you're in the same boat. We can
Yeah.
pull apart like what have you been doing? What are the scripts you're using? How are you communicating? Let's get some recordings and review it, and we'll tweak and iterate and send you back into the wild to go collect more information and try again.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. And yeah, and Rick and Aaron, if you guys, like I said, reach out to Nick or myself, DMS, you got our LinkedIn's. I'll be sending in a summary of this webinar here after we get done and have a bunch of links to some stuff so that you'll be able to find resources and feel free to set some time up with either of us because we're happy to help in whatever ways we can.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, well, cool. Well, first of all, Nick, thank you for sharing all of the story and insights. This has been fantastic. I definitely want to do one on networking with you, so we'll
Yeah.
take that offline.
Yeah,
This
absolutely.
is,
Yeah,
this
and
is,
folks, listen, if you've joined into this call, if you found anything useful in here, what I would encourage you to do, reach out to me on LinkedIn, let me know what you found useful, reach out to Bryce, do the same thing. and share it with other people. Bryce, I don't know if you're going to be posting this online someplace, but ideally, if you found value in this, somebody else is going to find value in it too. Um, my goal with all of this work at a very high level is to help alleviate human suffering at scale. If I can help you get in touch with the right person or have a couple of minutes of solace to connect with yourself and figure out how to move through this chaotic time that we're all in right now, then I've done my job. So stay in touch. Let me know how I can support you. I've got online resources on my website. I've got a mailing list you can sign up for that has all kinds of free resources. I've got a Substack. I live on LinkedIn. And I'd love to talk to you. So let me know how I can help.
Yep, absolutely. And like I said, we'll have uh, we're setting up another Finders and Founders for November, but I will definitely be talking to Nick about doing something maybe in between then and December on this networking thing because I think it's a big issue and topic that we can dive into that we've had experience with that might be able to help people. And then thank you, you guys, first of all, for showing up, being willing to listen, and I can't say enough about your. And I know we don't know everybody on the call, but I know that everybody's in their own situation, and you're doing great. You're
Yeah.
fine where you're at
Yeah.
if you're I heard somebody, I think it was the author of Eat Pray Love, say if you're in the deepest pit of despair, it's exactly where God wants you and he's fine with that because he loves you that way or whatever higher being you believe in. You're fine that way, and I wanted to make that. So keep connecting, keep creating opportunities. Remember, reinvention always starts with just that one little step moving forward. It's always one little thing. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Bryce. And I might also just like offer one last little thought here
Go
too.
for
Someone
it.
asked for the link to the workbook. I think to me, a lot of the work that I do is really rooted in this concept of rebellion. What does this actually mean? It actually comes from a quote or a summary of a quote by Albert Camus from the book The Rebel, and partially also from his other book, The Myth of Sisyphus. And he says that in an unjust world, essentially the best thing that we can do is to be so free that our very existence is an act of rebellion.
Mm,
And what I mean by this is reclaiming our time, reclaiming our energy, our capacity, our attention, our sense of sovereignty. All of these things are acts of rebellion against a system that's designed to keep us feeling stuck and small. A component of this is hope. So even though you might be 2 years into a job search, maybe you're in your third layoff, maybe you're trying to launch a business and you're struggling doing it. If you feel yourself feeling hopeless, reach out to other people, borrow their scaffolded hope, and talk about what you're experiencing. I think the biggest thing that I see people that struggle with job search and with what comes next is they stop believing in themselves, they lose hope, and they collapse into themselves. And there are strategies to help you out of all of this. But in general, what I would say is being in connection with other people, being of service, being in connection with yourself is the fastest way through all of that. So I wish you all well and good luck out there.
thanks, everybody. Take care.